go ahead and take your little one and put them into a butterfly stretch. We got these butterfly wings at the dollar store, so if you really like these, I know they do, we just found these at the dollar store. We're doing our butterfly stretch, and we're going to try to get them to move their knees up and down. If they can do that, then you can challenge them to reach their hands out far in front of them and put their head down to their toes to really stretch their glute muscles. Hands go out in front, head down to their toes. Next, you want them to try to do their straddle. So if you have a circular object or something to put in front of them that helps them to visualize where their legs should go around it, you're going to put those legs out to the side, something in the middle, and they can drum on it. You're going to have to help them to understand how to move their toes from a point to a flex, but that's all right because that's a really fine motor skill. So go ahead right now and try to point their toes for them and tell them point, and then help them to flex their toes. And you can just do one side at a time. So go ahead, do it 3 times on one side. And then move to the other side and try 3 times on that side. Make sure you're using those vocabulary words like point and flex, because once they move up to their independent classes, that's really going to help them if they understand what all of these words mean. Have them drum again in the middle and try to reach out as far as they can. Give them something to reach towards and see if they can get it and pull it in and up. Get it and pull it in and up. One more time. Then you can help them to do their table stretch. So they're going to have to go all the way back, hands down, sit up a little bit, feet apart, and push. Try to see if they can hold it for 5 seconds and count with them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you have to give them a little bit of assistance, you can put your hand on their lower back and press up and have them try to push through the floor with their hands and their feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to move on to doing one little finger.
Finger, one little finger, one little finger, tap, tap, tap. Point your finger up, point your finger down, put it on your head, head. One little finger, one little finger, one little finger, tap, tap, tap. Point your finger up, point your finger down, put it on your nose, nose. One little finger, one little finger, one little finger, tap, tap, tap. Point your finger up, point your finger down, put it on your chin, chin. One little finger, one little finger, one little finger, tap, tap, tap. Point your finger up, point your finger down, put it on your arm, arm. One little finger, one little finger, one little finger, tap, tap, tap. Point your finger up, point your finger down, put it on your leg, leg. One little finger, one little finger, one little finger, tap, tap, tap. Point your finger up, point your finger down, put it on your foot, foot. Put it on your leg, leg. Put it on your arm, arm. Put it on your chin, chin. Put it on your nose, nose. Put it on your head, head. Now
use some parent-taught gymnastics at home, a jump rope, a bean bag, some tape on the floor to create a balance beam, and if you have chalk, you can go outside and you can draw a hopscotch. The first thing that we want you to try with your little one is to make them stand in front of you. Sometimes if you draw a chalk circle or give them a mat to stand on, that will help them to understand where they need to be. And you're going to stand behind them with the jump rope and you're going to swing it for them, but you want them to jump over it as it comes through. So for the bouncing babies, you can swing it, let it rest in front of them, and then have them jump over it. And for the rolling Rogers, you're going to cue them when to jump verbally. So you'll swing it, and as soon as it comes to about their head, you're just going to say jump, jump, and try to swing it underneath their feet. So you want them to stay in the same spot ideally, but if they're still jumping forwards, that's all right. Go ahead and pause the video now and give that a try as many times as they can keep focused on this one activity. It's fine to come back to it later if they're losing focus right away, but this is a good one to start out with so that they get a little bit of that energy out and they're jumping. After they've got a little bit of that energy out and they've jumped around, even just jumping from, if you draw some circles on the floor with some chalk, just jumping through the circles or through hula hoops if you have hula hoops at home. So they've got some of the energy out. Now you want to work on some balancing. So you can take anything, like a small stuffed animal. Beanie Babies really work because they mold to their head. If you have a bean bag, this is ideal. But go ahead and put the bean bag on their head, and on your tape line that you've created, balance beams are 16 feet long. The small ones that we use here at the gym are 8 feet long, but you can, however much space you have is fine. But you're going to put the bean bag on their head. You stand at the end of the balance beam line, and you want them to try to walk to you without dropping their bean bag in the lava. If they've done that successfully, they can try to go backwards as well. There's a lot that you can do with a hopscotch. Now, this really helps them in the future when it comes to things like vaulting, hurdling, tumbling, just to get them to understand how to control their legs independently and to get them to understand jumping and explosive power. So if you have a hopscotch in front of you, obviously the first thing that we work on a lot in class is jumping with feet together and then feet apart. So Coach Amber's going to show us that we're going to jump from 1, 2, and 3 with feet together, and when she gets to 4 and 5, she's going to put her feet apart and then back together, together, apart, together, together, apart, together, safety landing. Make sure the kids say safety landing because that's another big vocabulary word that they're going to use throughout their entire gymnastics or cheerleading or tumbling career. The next thing that we want them to try, if they were able to do that, is to try to do 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 2 feet. So Coach Amber's going to show us that. Safety landing. Go ahead and pause the video here and see if you guys can accomplish those two. If they were able to do those two and you'd like a challenge, you can try to go backwards with feet together, feet apart. So you're going to tell them what's coming up. So you say together, together, apart, together, together, apart. It's really hard for them to push backwards. A lot of times they'll just go straight up and down, but it's a really good exercise for them to understand pushing backwards because eventually they're going to be doing things that do require them to push backwards through their feet, like a back handspring or a back tuck. Another one that you can try is to go sideways on 1 foot. This really helps develop ankle strength. You're going to try to go in order of the numbers. See if you can get them to count out loud as they go. You can even try it on their non-dominant leg as well. If you have a soft surface or a mat at home, you guys can practice some of their acro elements. Some of the things that they're going to be working on in class are log rolls, forward rolls, and backward rolls. If you're trying to get them to do a log roll, you're going to have them lay flat. And ideally you want their arms to be up by their ears. And to help them, you can just put your hands on their legs and roll them over. Try to see how far they can go. To do a forward roll, they're going to put their feet apart. The most important part about the forward roll with young little ones is making sure that they set it up correctly. Because a lot of times they're ready to roll, but they haven't set it up correctly and they just dump themselves forwards. So what you want them to do is take their time setting it up. So feet go apart, arms up, reach down, and they can't reach too far out. So you want them to reach down pretty close to their feet, tuck their head, look at their belly button, and roll over the top. If you are assisting them, you're just going to help pull their hips over the top, making sure that their head is in the correct position so that they don't hurt their neck. So most importantly, you want that chin on their chest and their eyes looking at their belly button. Go ahead and pause the video now and see if they can try some log rolls and forward rolls. If you would like a challenge and your athlete is really good at the log rolls and the forward rolls, they can try a backward roll. So to do a backward roll, they have to make sure that their hands are in the correct position. So as they roll backwards, Coach Kaylin's going to do it in fast motion, but as your athlete rolls backwards, they can lay down, you can fix their hand position, and then you're going to help them by pulling their hips over their head. Make sure that you give them a lot of assistance in this phase because you don't want a lot of pressure on their neck as they're going over the top. So Coach Kaylin's going to show us a backward roll, and Coach Amber is going to show you where your hands would go to pull their hips over their head. Let's do one more. Here are some books that we recommend that you get to keep them interested in gymnastics for the time being. This is Jake at Gymnastics. This is a really good one for our Roland Rogers. Maybe not so much the bouncing babies, but the Roland Rogers would probably enjoy this one. This is Olympic. And this one we're going to read to them today. This is Giraffes Can't Dance. Gerald was a tall giraffe whose neck was long and slim, but his knees were awfully crooked and his legs were rather thin. He was very good at standing still and munching shoots off trees, but when he tried to run around, he buckled at the knees. Now every year in Africa, they hold the jungle dance, where every single animal turns up to skip and prance. And this year, when the day arrived, poor Gerald felt so sad, because when it came to dancing, he was really very bad. The warthogs started waltzing, and the rhinos rock and rolled. The lions danced a tango that was elegant and bold. The chimps all did the cha-cha with a very Latin feel, and 8 baboons then teamed up for a splendid Scottish reel. Gerald swallowed bravely as he walked toward the floor, but the lions saw him coming, and they soon began to roar. "Hey, look at clumsy Gerald," the animals all sneered. "Giraffes can't dance, you silly fool. Oh, Gerald, you're so weird." Gerald simply froze up. He was rooted to the spot. "They're right," he thought. "I'm useless. Oh, I feel like such a clot." So he crept off from the dance floor, and he started walking home. He'd never felt so bad before, so sad and so alone. Then he found a little clearing, and he looked up at the sky. "The moon can be so beautiful," he whispered with a sigh. "Excuse me," coughed a cricket, who'd seen Gerald earlier on, "but sometimes when you're different, you just need a different song. Listen to the swaying grass and listen to the trees. To me, the sweetest music is those branches in the breeze. So imagine that the lovely moon is playing just for you. Everything makes music if you really want it to." With that, the cricket smiled and picked up his violin. Then Gerald felt his body do the most amazing thing. His hooves had started shuffling, making circles on the ground. His neck was gently swaying, and his tail was swishing round. He threw his legs out sideways, and he swung them everywhere. Then he did a backward somersault and leapt up in the air. Gerald felt so wonderful. His mouth was open wide. "I am dancing. Yes, I'm dancing. I am dancing," Gerald cried. Then one by one, each animal who'd been there at the dance arrived while Gerald boogied on and watched him, quite entranced. They shouted, "It's a miracle. We must be in a dream. Gerald's the best dancer that we've ever seen." "How did you learn to dance like that? Please, Gerald, tell us how." But Gerald simply twirled around and finished with a bow. Then he raised his head and looked up at the moon and stars above. "We all can dance," he said, "when we find music that we love." Just make sure that you keep your kids active. Try to take them outdoors and keep them running around and jumping, maybe going to some playgrounds, and we will see you shortly.